Hello, this is Gail, the Legacy Lady, and you are watching or listening to Legacy After Dark. I am here with Amy, and I'm so excited she's joining me. Amy, would you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Amy Greg Cunningham. I am a living kidney donor. I am the author of Daring to Believe, which is all about my spiritual journey through the kidney donation process. I am also, I work with the Akashic Records. I do soul realignment practitioner. I do all sorts of readings when it comes to that.
So,
And sorry, go ahead.
okay. I was going to ask, is there a did you do the Akashic Records before you were a kidney donor?
No, actually, I did that after. My spiritual journey actually kind of started with the kidney donation process. So I heard my husband was telling me about someone from high school that he thought that I knew. We both went to high school together, and he told me that her brother needed a kidney. And I remember saying, I hope that somebody steps up to help the man. And that's when I heard very clearly that I would be the one to donate to him. And it was kind of like a voice within my head, outside of my head. And I just very distinctly knew that it was God speaking to me. It was just very bizarre. And I remember looking around thinking, okay, I'm hearing voices. and then after that, it was, I could not get that voice out of my head. And so I kept looking on Facebook page, the Facebook page, and I kept thinking about it. And eventually I just decided to do it. And we ended up being a 1 in 20 million match.
What?
And
oh my gosh.
yeah, it was an incredible journey, let me tell you. It started in January. It's going to be 10 years this year in July.
That's amazing.
And yeah, I still can't believe it's been 10 years. It seems like yesterday, but at the same time, it doesn't. So it'll be 10 years, July 5th. It was the day after 4th of July. And July 6th, I'm sorry, excuse me. July 6th. And it started in January, and it took us 7 months almost.
Oh my gosh. So are you still in contact with them?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I still talk with them, and we're not as close as we were right after the donation, obviously. But life goes on. But he's doing well. Both of his daughters are married now, and he's a grandfather, and so it's awesome. It's amazing to watch him and to be a part of that family, and then I decided to write a book and tell my story and get it out there, because when I was going through the donation process, there wasn't a whole lot of information about being a kidney donor. And I didn't even know at the time that you can even donate a kidney. I had no clue. I knew that, after you died, you could obviously give your body parts away, but I didn't realize you could do it when you were alive. And so that was something that was completely new for me. And so I wanted to tell my story and write a book. And there was a couple books out there that I read, but some of them were very hard to read. Yeah. And when I say hard to read, it was just very big words.
Very technical.
Very technical, very clinical. And then some of it was very dry. There was one book, it was like, oh, good gracious. You couldn't even turn the page. So I wanted a book that was fun to read, easy to read, and I wanted it to be a book that, when people were going through dialysis, that they wanted to find out what it was like for someone to actually donate a kidney to them, that they could read it while they were going through dialysis. And some people have told me it takes them a day to read it, and my husband actually read it through, a weekend, and he's not a reader. So
So did you include, I have not read the book, so did you include I would imagine you include anecdotal things, but did you include parts of the process or
yes,
things like that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
the whole.
Go ahead.
It's the whole process. It's the journey of from start to finish of why I did what I did, and then what to expect. And everybody's experience is obviously different because everybody's body is different. But there's most of the tests and everything are all the same. Some of the how they go about doing the tests may be different from location to location, but it's all pretty much the same. But everybody's story is a little bit different. Mine was kind of a romance story as well between my husband and I. And so that there was a little romance put in there. And, and it was also a spiritual journey as well, because it opened my eyes to spirituality and what it means to live my divinity through my humanity and actually create something that, I actually saved a life, which is, pretty awesome experience to say the least. So, and that put me on a journey. I was kind of on that journey to begin with. I had started a meditation process, and I had been doing that for quite a while, but hearing a voice speak to me was pretty eye-opening, I guess, to say the least. And it's happened several times after that, and has led me down different paths from there. But that was kind of the turning point for me.
Did it ever happen before?
No. I've had some other experiences with angels. I had an experience where when my grandmother passed when I was 18, she came to visit me after she passed. And that was, I got chills as I'm talking about it. Yeah. She's here in this room. I can feel her. She likes to come visit sometimes. She came the night that she passed, and it was very interesting because my grandfather and I were talking years later about the night that she had passed, and we both had the same quote unquote dream. Okay. Very similar. And she was dressed in the same, it was just a very eerie conversation to have. So it was one that, I knew actually happened. And I remember after she left, the phone rang, and I knew it was my mother calling to tell me, because my mother was down in Florida, and I knew it was my mother calling to tell me my grandmother had passed. And it was a very interesting thing. So I've always had a fascination with, not a fascination, that's not the right word, but a connection. Yeah. A connection to spirits and angels, and working in the Akashic Records, which is kind of, if you haven't heard of the Akashic Records, it's kind of an information superhighway for everything you ever wanted to know about your soul, and then some.
Okay. All right. That's a really big library.
Yes.
Really big library.
It's kind of like the World Wide Web for souls.
Okay.
So.
All right.
And everything that you could possibly want to know, everything you've ever thought, felt, said, is located in the Akashic Record. And actually, every night when you go to sleep, your soul, your spirit, it actually goes into the Akashic Record and kind of downloads everything that happened that day into the Akashic Records. So when you have insomnia and that sort of thing, it really kind of messes with that whole process. And which is one of the reasons why people tend to get a little squirrely, for lack of better words, when you don't get a whole lot of sleep, because you need that time to be able to decompress and to kind of put that information away. But anybody and everybody can access the records. However, a lot of times our ego gets in the way and keeps us from being able to access it. So
how was that something that from the, what was that how did you come to that from being the living kidney donor? Like, I know you said that was somewhere in there, but was there like a moment, or was there someone you ran into or met?
Well, to be totally honest with you, it's been a journey that I've gone on since then with kind of peeling the onion back. I have asked over and over, my prayer's always been, just please reveal yourself to me, God. I want to know. I want to understand. I've always had questions about, well, what is the afterlife? What is angels? And I remember being a young child asking my mother, well, if Jesus can do all these miracles that are in the Bible, and it says that, we can do the miracles the same as he can, even better, why can't we? And nobody could give me a good reason or a good answer. Nobody could answer that question. And I just always had questions, lots and lots of questions, and nothing. I never seemed to get a really good answer for a lot of my questions. So I would just ask God. I'm like, okay, well, just give me an answer, and I want to know. And so I would meditate and pray, and I would read, and layers kept peeling back. And I was out walking one day in my neighborhood, and this dog came up to me, and it wasn't unusual. It's not unusual for me to go out walking and animals just kind of come up to me. Yeah. And this dog came up to me and wouldn't leave me alone, and just kind of like ushered me to this woman. Yeah. And her name was Jessica, and she ended up being one of my neighbors, but she was a medium, or is a medium. And I remember she introduced me to meditating, how to meditate. And that kind of opened the door up. And I went and met with her one time. I actually booked her for a session. And before I went, I looked in the Bible to make sure it was okay to go see a medium. And I'm looking through the whole thing, and I'm going, in the Old Testament, it says it's wrong, but in the New Testament, it's okay. And, since Jesus came, it's okay because, blah, 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 blah. So I literally went with my Bible to the meeting and sat there and said, okay, this is what I found out. It's okay for me to sit here and talk to you. And we still laugh. She's like, okay, you were off your rocker. But, and that's where I was at that particular time in my life. And things kind of unfolded from there. And I learned about chakras, and I learned more about angels, and I learned about Reiki. And I actually worked with Hospice here in the Charlotte area, and I would go and help do Reiki on hospice patients. And sometimes I would go and, just sit with patients, so family members could go and, do shopping or whatever they needed to do, and just be with people and listen to their stories. And that was the best part about it, I think, which is one of the reasons why I really liked listening to your story about your how to tell stories, because I loved listening to their stories. And the Reiki really seemed to help them. And I don't necessarily practice the Reiki much anymore. I still do, but I really enjoy doing the Akashic Records readings more so now, because that seems to really help people heal past life traumas, present life traumas, and really move into who they are supposed to be at soul level, and be able to live the life that we were created to live, and to be able to enjoy our humanity as we're living our divinity, because we're all divine. We're all from the Creator. We're all created to create and be happy and joyful and, be inspired. So that's what I enjoy doing, is helping inspire others.
I love it. When you were doing the hospice work, did you have, how do I want to ask this? Was there ever a time where someone was, was anyone ever like hesitant about having you sit with their loved one? Or was it always just very like, so one of those things where you were the volunteer on hand and you came in?
Mm-hmm. I was a volunteer on hand, and I came in, and I started actually volunteering with hospice because of all the wonderful volunteers that came and helped us when my sister-in-law was going through hospice. And the nurses that were there and the volunteers that came to help. We had hospice come in when my father-in-law got really sick as well, and they helped with, helping the care for him as towards the end. And it was just always a really great experience for me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give back in some way, and that was one of the ways that I was able to. So.
When you've been sharing your story on other podcasts and things, have you had feedback from people where they've like said, I'm so grateful that you shared your story and those sort of things, and does one stick out for you? Like since you published your book, like when you've shared the book and things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Has there been something that has stuck out?
In terms of, so like with someone, I've had this image of like if you were sharing your story and like about being a kidney donor, and sometimes people are freaked out about being an organ donor, like on that from the other side of the death part, and then deciding to like give a kidney while you're alive, like that's a whole other ballgame. But as you've been sharing your story, has there been someone who's like, someone asked me about this to do it? Do you know of anyone who's been inspired to donate live, donate after death?
Yes. I've actually had people approach me. I volunteer on the National Kidney Foundation as well.
Okay.
And I work with them on helping others, or helping people who are in need of a kidney learn how to tell their story as well, to be able to inspire. And I tell people all the time that it's all about telling the story, because without Jennifer posting what she did on Facebook and telling the story about her brother needing the kidney, I would never have had the opportunity to say yes or no.
Right.
It was her courage to open up and share what she desperately needed and wanted. And because of that, it gave me the opportunity to say yes or no. And that for me, I will always be grateful, because it literally changed my life, being able to help change his life and to be an angel, I guess, for him, if that, for a lack of better words. So, it's all about inspiring and telling stories and, getting the word out there. And there's so many things, whether you're donating a kidney or working with a child in need or working with a hospice patient or, volunteering at school, with the PTA, or being a stay-at-home mom or dad, or, whatever life throws at you, I think being inspired to just be divinely you and without any fear and just enjoying life. That's the whole meaning of it. And that's what I try and pray that my life is an example of now, because I want it to be on my tombstone.
Yeah.
I just hope that it says she lived joyously.
I was going to ask, are we doing a period or are we doing an exclamation point?
Oh yeah, big exclamation point. She lived. Big one. Yep.
So before you mentioned about that you included some romance in your book with your husband, can you tell me more about that?
Oh yeah. We actually dated in high school.
Okay.
And he says that I broke up with him, but I have a feeling he broke up with me because there's no way I would have broke up with him. I was so in love. We dated for 2 years. I remember the exact spot on Thermal Road in Charlotte, North Carolina that I met him. My brother and I were walking to the Harris Teeter and Sardis Road, and he pulled up in this Mustang with the brown, like, plastic seats, that stuck.
Yes.
And I remember getting in the back seat of that Mustang and praying that I didn't say anything, because I looked at him and literally I was love at first sight. And I remember thinking to myself, if my mouth opens up, I'm going to say, I love you. I want to have your babies. Please marry me right now. So we dated for about 2 years, and we still don't remember why we broke up. And some reason, I think it was this blonde girl. I remember a blonde girl in something, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we ended up getting back together 20 years later on Facebook.
Years. What?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Okay, so when you met, were you a freshman, sophomore, senior? What year were you?
I was a let's see. No, it's my end of my sophomore year, beginning junior year.
Okay.
And we dated a year after I had graduated.
Okay.
So.
And were you guys in the same grade?
He was a year older than me.
A year older. Okay. All right.
So, yep, he's older. He's the older man.
Okay, so 20 years later.
20 years later. And it's so funny because our lives have always been parallel. We have always lived very close to each other. And actually, after we got back together, I went over to his apartment and I looked up and I'm like, oh my God, I lived in that apartment right over there. Literally from my garage, I could have looked into his patio. And, literally both of our boys, I have a son and he has a son. They're a year apart almost to the day.
What? Oh my gosh.
Like, yeah. And they're both tall, blonde hair. I mean, they look like mine. They look both like they're mine. But they both went to the same school together. They both knew each other, both rode the same bus. We've both worked in the same building. We both worked at the Bank of America building for many years. I don't know how we didn't see each other on the elevator. I mean, Bank of America building is obviously a really big building. We worked on different floors, but, so our lives have always been parallel and very close together. And so I know that, we were meant and destined to be together again. And then we got back together on Facebook and I saw him and we got back together on January and we were of 2009 and we were married in September of 2009.
That's amazing.
So,
That's amazing.
I told him he was going to marry me. Took him 20 years, but
Finally got around to it.
finally got around to it, yeah. So we've been married. It'll be 12 years this year. So
We'll be 15 years, I think. 15.
congratulations. Yeah. So Chuck says, we've been together a lifetime. I'm like, we've been together many lifetimes.
Yeah, like, that's funny how that goes. So is there stuff, how do you think I guess you talked about the growing part with the spirituality part, but do you think you grew as a partner through when you were doing the donor process? Because if you guys have been married 12 years, then 2 years in, you decided to do the kidney donation. Is that right?
Yes.
So how did go ahead.
That was a struggle at first. He had a really hard time with it at first. When I tell him now, honey, I've been thinking, he turns around and walks there. He runs the other way.
Like, nope. I'm out.
I'm done, not listening.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But yes, he was a trooper, and actually, he's always been very supportive of everything that I've ever wanted to do, and he supports me. He may not always agree with me, but he does support me. And this one, it took him a little while, and I think once he understood the process, we went and because they send you like this pack of paper like this thick, and you literally have to give away your firstborn. It's a very detailed process. Let me tell you, you are one healthy person if you can donate a kidney. You are very healthy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you can't get life insurance. Go figure.
Wait, after you've donated the kidney?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, can you believe it? You can't get life insurance after you donate a kidney.
Oh,
I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm healthy as a horse. But anyway, so you fill all that out. They make sure you're a match. They ask you all these questions, and they set you up with an appointment, and you go in, and there's like a whole day of just appointments, and you speak with everybody on your team. And I can't remember exactly how many appointments. I think there was like 7 or 8 different people that we spoke with, doctors, nurses. I mean, you had to see a psychologist. I really thought I was going to get locked up because, by the way, I'm doing this because I heard a voice tell me that, yes, I'm going to be a perfect match. Yeah. So, that was interesting. But by the time we were done with the whole day, it was, I think he finally understood why I was doing what I was doing, because he I think actually heard my why. And then he heard the doctors, and, one of the things they said was, as at that point, which I still think it's true, they hadn't lost a donor yet. So, my thing was, well, let's not start now. And actually, to be honest with you, I was actually declined.
Okay.
So, yep. You'll read in the book, I was, my transplant team approved me, but David's transplant team declined me. So and we had a little miracle that happened, but I'll let you read the book so you can find that out. I won't give that one away.
I like that. No spoilers. We don't want to do spoilers.
Just spoilers. Yep.
So why don't you tell people where they can pick up the book, where they can find you, and those types of things?
The book is called Daring to Believe. It's a spiritual journey of about the kidney donation process, and it's available on Amazon. So you can find it there, and you can also find it on a link to it on my website, which is amygray-cunningham.com. And you can also find out more about the Akashic Record readings on the website as well. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn under amygray-cunningham.com. And I'm also getting ready to launch a podcast. So excited. Yay. It is called Butterfly Kisses. It's a journey of spiritual transformation. So we are going to explore all things spiritual and uncover all the mysteries behind the afterlife and angels and all sorts of questions that people might have. So all those questions that I didn't get really good answers to when I was younger, I'm going to find out now.
Right. So do you have a launch date for that yet? Or is it something you're working on?
I am planning on May 2nd.
May 2nd, that's amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is my plan date. So that's what I'm shooting for. So
I love it. Are you going to be having guests, or are you going to have like just solo working through things?
I'm going to do both.
You do both. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely do both. So, and I'd love to have you on one time.
I'm in. I have a couple of.
Not to put you on the spot, but
No, I have a couple like angel touch things that I think those fall into that category. Those things have happened over the years, and I definitely have those moments where like I can hear that like it's as long as I follow whatever is happening in my head that I'm supposed to do, it almost always is correct. And when I don't listen to that, then things go sideways. So whatever that is, I haven't defined things. So I'm coming from a very Catholic background and disassociative of, that's organized religion is weird. So that's a whole other episode.
Yep. Nope. And what's so funny is I actually I grew up Episcopalian. So very close to Catholic, and I love a lot of the rituals and the traditions, and it's very rich in that sort of thing. And I absolutely love that. And all the religions have a lot of traditions and rituals and things that I just absolutely love. And I want to know why. What is the why behind the traditions and the rituals, and why do we do those things? I have a lot of questions.
I love those questions. I'm excited. I'm very excited to have that conversation. So I will totally have that.
I would love to have you on.
I'm in for that.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight and for sharing your story. And I have there's so many more things to ask, but
I know.
It's more time. So
for another time.
Yeah, it's for another time. So for everyone who's watching, if you are listening, you can find Amy Gray Cunningham, pretty much Amy Gray Cunningham everywhere. When this drops, as things will get updated in the YouTube description, and when it drops as a podcast, you'll find things in that description, and at some point it will be a blog post or an article on thelegacyreporter.com, in which case all of the things will be there. And if things go to plan, maybe it'll be right around May 2nd when you launch, which would be awesome. Yay! So, with that, thank you so much, Amy, for coming on. I appreciate you. And
thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Likewise. All right, everyone. We're going to say goodbye now. Goodbye.
Bye.